Bicara Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bicara Supply Chain. This is Nur Hadi House. I'm speaking now with Lourdes Coss. She is a procurement expert and principal owner at ML Coss and Associate, and she is based in the US. Thanks for joining us, Lourdes, and welcome to Bicara Supply Chain.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to start this podcast.
Awesome. So today's topic is procurement cost savings strategies. But before we get in, can you please brief a bit about yourself and your professional background?
So I am a retired public procurement professional. I was a chief procurement officer for some of the largest cities and institutions, public institutions here in the U.S. And most of my career was leading transformations in the different agencies, elevating the profile of procurement and, of course, reducing cost and increasing efficiencies.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So I have learned from your professional background that you have been involved in the procurement for many years. So can you please tell us, how does procurement reduce costs?
So I have been in procurement for I was in government procurement for 27 years, and now I have like 3 years on my own doing consulting. And there are different ways in which procurement can help reduce cost. But most importantly, there has to be the level of awareness and intentionality to want to do that. Mm-hmm. Many organizations get into this autopilot and process, and don't take into consideration each individual procurement, and that's where the key. That's really where it starts. Having the awareness and the intentionality to really look at the procurement as it is. Look at the market and see where the organization stands. What has been the past history of the agency with that particular procurement or area of expenditure.
Mm-hmm. So can you also describe what are the basic steps in the procurement cost savings?
Oh, well, I mean, there are different steps for different things. Yeah. So one of the things that we did in a few of our agencies was to first do a cost analysis. Well, just kind of look at all the spend in mm-hmm. general. And, we looked at data or mined the data so that we can then understand where our biggest expenditures were. Right. And, those areas, commodities or services where we had the highest spend, that's exactly where we started. And mm-hmm. then we started looking at each individual, like, for example, technology. These IT and anything related to IT, anything related to utilities, communication. Those are areas where there's a high spend generally in an organization, and it's where you want to start looking at what constitutes that expenditure. What's your history in that particular area, and then do a lot of research the market, see what other agencies are paying, what are the components of the the cost that you're paying, how does it fluctuate, or is it tied to the market? And there's a lot of different components to that, but primarily there's first, look at the big picture. Second, identify the areas that have greater expenditures, so that then you can determine where you're going to start, because it could be daunting. It could be really daunting if you're starting from scratch. From there, it's really more of a maintenance. Now, all you have to do is kind of refresh the data once you're gone through the procurement and you've identified the savings. And once you identify the savings, of course, you have to implement the program and the strategies that in monitor, so that you can actually realize the savings. Because oftentimes what happens is there's a lot of effort going through negotiating and identifying savings, and then everyone forgets about it. But it's that contract management piece that is really going to help realize the savings, ultimately. So that's kind of, obviously, there's another strategy would be to see what can you buy off of a cooperative contract. Does that make sense to your agency? Does it make sense to based in the environment that you're in? Because cooperative contracts, I found that helps me leverage the time of my staff, which is like an operational efficiency, which also has perhaps some cost savings attached to it. And that's really about what areas have someone gone through the process already. For example, like supplies, whether it's electrical supplies, plumbing supplies, all those kind of building materials that other agencies, other organizations generally purchase. And if they've gone through a process where the savings are reasonable, or the price is reasonable, then it's best to spend that brain power of your team in areas where you have not done anything to increase or have any cost savings.
Other thing I would like to ask is how to develop the strategy and the procurement to be in line with the cost saving target.
So that's an interesting question, because one of the things that we did, and I'm thinking of different examples, was first we developed really good specification. That is key. If you don't have good specifications, then everyone is like throwing darts in the dark. You have to know where you're going, and that's where the market research comes in. Understand market research and conversations with your end users. What is it that they need? What is it that they want? And those could be two different things. And then look at your agency requirements. Are they over the top? Because this is what happens, and these are cost drivers. Sometimes we have templates that we want to use just for efficiency's sake, and we want to use with everything. But what happens is that they might have certain clauses that increase the cost unnecessarily. And that tends to happen in more than one organization. So it's really looking at that procurement holistically. One is like the scope, of course, and the other one is are those requirements in line with what you're going to purchase? And do they fall in line with how the industry sells those services or goods? Because sometimes we want to have information or information that it's really not necessary, but someone decided like, oh, it would be nice too, and those would be nice too tend to cost money. So it's really watching for what is it that you need, what is it, how does the market operate, and align those two so that you are able to speak the same language with the vendors and then be able to get to a place where it's a mutually rewarding opportunity for both the vendor community and your agency.
Mm-hmm. So what are other considerations for procurement saving? Do you think any specific areas we should focus on, Lourdes?
I think that we should focus, one of the big ones, it's really the requirements. Mm-hmm. What is the scope? What are the, picture yourself with, and this is what I used to tell the end users, picture yourself with the, with the product or the service. What does that look like? What is it that you need? Do you need this or that requirement? And then make sure that the evaluation process is aligned with the goals. Mm-hmm. Because that's another point where sometimes it gets missed. And then all of a sudden you end up back where you started in terms of cost, because during the evaluation, there might be other people that get involved and they bring other ideas. If you have those goals set up and you have a clear set of requirements and specification, then you can always refer back. When that's left to everyone's imagination, it can go down a spiral very quickly and not reach the objective with which that process was started.
Awesome. Interesting. So before we close today's conversation, Lourdes, do you have any key takeaway or final thoughts?
Yeah, I just, first of all, want to thank you for the opportunity to be in this podcast with you, and just want to encourage everyone to really look at, to strengthen the specifications, and because now being on the other side and being the recipient of some of those procurement solicitation documents, it's sometimes I wish that they were tighter, and it's just kind of generally caused by the use of generic templates. So looking at each procurement individually, it's worth everyone's while.
Okay, so thanks again, Lourdes. I look forward to speaking with you at another time. See you and goodbye.
My pleasure. Take care.
At Bicara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share Bicara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicarasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.